Smallpox is a very infectious disease that is caused by one of two variants, variola major and variola minor. Smallpox is thought to have emerged in human populations around 10,000 BC. Smallpox has a mortality rate of 30 to 35% of all people infected. Smallpox was eradicated in the world in 1979. Smallpox infected everyone from the lowest classes of people to royal families and pharaohs. The clinical definition of smallpox is an illness with acute onset of fever equal to or greater than 38.3 degrees Celsius or 101 degrees Fahrenheit, followed by a rash characterized by firm, deep-seated vesicles or pustules in the same stage of development without other apparent cause. Smallpox is very infectious. It is contracted through contact with infected people and fluids. It is contagious until the last pox scab falls off. Smallpox has a 12-day incubation period during which the virus spreads through the whole body, infecting as many cells as possible. 12 days after infection, the symptoms mirror that of influenza and the common cold, with muscle pain, headache, and fever being the main noticeable symptoms. 12 to 15 days after infection, the first visible lesions are noticeable as small red spots in the mouth, on the tongue, and throat. 24 to 48 hours after the first spots are noticed, a skin rash spreads from the forehead across the body to the tips of the fingers and toes. The skin rash takes 24 to 48 hours to spread across the body. At this point, the smallpox disease will alter into one of four types: ordinary smallpox, modified smallpox, malignant smallpox, or hemorrhagic smallpox. Ordinary smallpox is the most common form of smallpox. On the second day of the rash, the lesions become raised papules. On the third or fourth day since the rash, the papules filled with opalescent fluid become vesicles. The fluid turns opaque, giving the appearance of pustules. On the 6th day since the rash, all of the skin lesions become pustules. On the 7 to 10 days since the rash, the pustules become mature and reach their maximum size. The skin feels like it's covered in beads, and the pustules begin to slowly leak fluid. On the 14th day since the rash, all of the pustules deflate and dry, forming scabs. On the 16th to 20th day since the rash, scabs have formed all over the lesions on the skin and start to flake off, leaving depigmented scars. Modified smallpox appears in previously vaccinated people and is less severe than the other types of smallpox. The main difference in this type of smallpox is there are no fever symptoms during the rash stage, and the other stages occur more rapidly. There are much less skin lesions, and the whole process is over faster. This version of smallpox can be easily mistaken for chickenpox. Malignant smallpox is a much more severe type of smallpox. In this type of smallpox, the lesions remain flush with the skin. The fever is much worse and the skin lesions develop more slowly. The 8th day since the rash, the lesions are flat and appear buried in the skin. The skin lesions contain very little fluid. The skin lesions are soft to the touch and may hemorrhage easily. Malignant smallpox is almost always fatal. Hemorrhagic smallpox is a much more fatal version of smallpox. In this type of smallpox, the lesions are accompanied by extensive bleeding. The skin does not blister. Bleeding under the skin occurs, making the skin look charred and black. Hemorrhagic smallpox is almost always fatal. Hemorrhagic smallpox is also known as blackpox. The long-term effects of smallpox. If a person was lucky enough to survive the smallpox infection, then the person would be scarred on the face and body. The amount of scarring would depend on the person. Some people would have little scarring, while others would have up to 90% of their body covered in scars. The scars on the eyes can cause permanent blindness. The scars on the eardrum can cause permanent deafness. The scars on the voice box can cause permanent voice loss. The smallpox disease can cause limb deformities. The treatment for smallpox. Smallpox vaccination within 3 days of exposure will prevent or significantly lessen the severity of the smallpox symptoms in the vast majority of people. Vaccination 4 to 7 days after exposure can offer some protection from disease or may modify the severity of the disease. Other than vaccination, treatment for smallpox is primarily supportive, such as wound care and infection control, fluid therapy, and possible ventilator assistance. Edward Jenner demonstrated the effectiveness of cowpox to protect humans from smallpox in 1796. One of the last cases and the reason for limited storage of smallpox. In Birmingham, in the UK, in 1978, a medical photographer, Janet Parker, contracted the disease at the University of Birmingham Medical School and died on September 11, 1978. after which Professor Henry Bedson, the scientist responsible for smallpox research at the university, committed suicide. In light of this incident, all known stocks of smallpox were destroyed or transferred to one of two WHO reference laboratories which had BSL-4 facilities, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention (CDC). The only other place outside of the United States where smallpox is allowed to be stored is the State Research Center of Biology and Biotechnology Vector in Kosovo, Russia. Thank you for watching. There are many more videos available on the channel, so be sure to subscribe to not miss any.